I'm Robin Gagnon.
And I'm Aaron Gagnon. We sell restaurants. We started the nation's largest restaurant brokerage firm. We sell restaurants over a decade ago. You can find us online at WeSellRestaurants.com.
We are on the air once a week with leading authorities in this industry talking about subjects that are trending in the restaurant business. Tweet your own questions on the topic while we are on the air to our Twitter handle, Sell Restaurants, or put them up on our Facebook page at facebook.com/WeSellRestaurants. If we don't get to your question, we'll answer it later on social media.
Our goal is to satisfy your appetite for acquisition, feed the need for restaurant reality, and serve up a recipe for business success. If you have ideas for our show or comments, email me. My email address is eric, E-R-I-C, at WeSellRestaurants.com. For today's show, we're talking about jobs, more precisely careers in the restaurant business. And to do so, we're going to have a couple of guests today. Our first guest is going to be joining us today is Rick Smilo, president and owner of the Institute of Culinary Education, or ICE, in New York City. Rick acquired the school formerly known as Peter Combs New York Cooking School in 1995. The school was founded in 1975, and ICE offered a highly regarded 8 to 13-month career training diploma programs in culinary arts, pastry, baking arts, culinary management, and hospitality management. During his tenure, among other initiatives, the school has quadrupled its program offerings, gained accreditation, changed its name, and expanded 3 times. In 2008-2013, ICE won the International Association of Culinary Professional Award of Excellence for Culinary Schools. Rick, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure to be with you.
And here to give us a different perspective, because after all, once you go to school, you need a job, is Steve Gibson. Steve is the founder and principal recruiting partner for Talent Serve. Founded in 2000, Talent Serve is a specialized boutique recruiting firm that serves top organizations within the hospitality industry, including independent and multi-unit restaurant groups, cruise lines, cutting-edge hotels, casinos, and fine wineries. With locations in Atlanta, Denver, San Francisco, Las Vegas, and New York City, this agile recruiting company specializes in sourcing exceptional operations managers, executive chefs, corporate and executive level staff. For more information, visit talentserve.com. Rick, Steve, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Robin. Great to be here.
Well, we're so excited to have these experts in the field who are going to share their knowledge on careers and training in the restaurant and hospitality industry, because after all, Food Network's glamorization of chefs has affected, I believe, everyone's ability to attract and retain students, as well as the state of the job market for recent culinary school students. So, Steve, let's start with you. There are a lot of people out there who say, well, you probably don't even need a degree in art, specifically culinary art. So what do you think? You're on the recruiting side of the business. Is attending a culinary school worth the cost?
Well, it depends on what your perspective is. For higher level executive chef jobs and multi-unit chef jobs, corporate chef positions, purchasing positions, bigger business absolutely loves a culinary degree, and we get asked for that frequently, particularly in these kind of searches. But I think the reality of the situation is that a student needs to be tempered by the knowledge that they're not going to walk out into a position just like that right after culinary school. As long as they're realistic about that and they know that they'll probably have to put in some real time at the sous chef level and other potentially independent restaurants and other groups, they should be just fine.
That makes sense. Rick, why don't you chime in a bit about to tell our listeners about the value of a quality of culinary education and in some benefits that a student received versus an individual who did not go and is going to go the OJT route. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you said it was more valuable at the higher levels, and our perspective is that it's valuable at the higher levels, but it's going to be most helpful to you at the beginning stages. But overall, I would say it is not necessary to go to culinary school, but it certainly is helpful. It will speed up your education. It will provide connections. Most good schools these days have an externship program, and that externship program can be a foot in the door that you otherwise wouldn't get. And while on the job learning is great, it really works best if you're in a good teaching environment, if you find a mentor, and that's not something that you can ordain in advance. There's plenty of good working kitchens, but that may not be the best places to learn. And as far as finding a mentor, that's something that happens as a two-way street, and you can't be sure that it's going to happen to you in any given job.
So tell us a little bit, who is your typical student at ICE?
Well, ICE is a diploma program as opposed to an associate's or a bachelor's program, and you can complete your program here in 8 to 12 months. And so we get a real wide range of students, everything from people right out of high school or college to career changers. Our career changer, it's always hard to know when someone is a career changer versus not. You know, at age 30, they certainly are. At age 22 or 23, maybe not. But our average age is about 25 or 26, and quite a range. I'd say 18 to 60.
Okay. Well, Steve, restaurant industry job growth, according to the National Restaurant Association, outpaced the overall economy in 13 consecutive years, from 2000 to current time. Are schools like ICE fueling the need in the restaurant environment, and what do you see in terms of job growth out there?
Well, it's off the hook right now, and I say that meaning coming back from the downturn. We did have a bit of a pause button there when there was very little growth and very little new opportunity, and companies weren't building new restaurants as much, so that slowed things down. But I'd say 210, 211, 212. I mean, we've seen progressively stronger quarters leading up to. We're at our peak right now. We're just doing a lot of business, and it's placing people all across the spectrum of positions. So not just culinary, but general managers, multi-unit managers, VPs of operations, purchasing directors, folks in that, in all really segments or areas of hospitality. But in terms of chefs specifically, I used to recruit a lot on the corporate side from programs, and that was particularly when I was with Darden Restaurants. And it was always a real cool feather in the cap to go and be able to bring in a chef, somebody who was a recent graduate, didn't have a lot of experience yet, but to start their career out with a big company like Darden. So they really appreciated the programs. In my case, it's a little different because typically companies ask me to find somebody that has 2, 3, or more years of experience in the same role that they want to hire for. So it's got to be somebody that brings a degree, preferably, but then brings some experience on top of that. So we see it as a plus, but not always a defining factor.
Good information. Rick, we talk about chefs and everything like that, but what other career or opportunity that you have in the food service industry besides being a chef that you guys are promoting out there?
Well, first of all, there's all different sorts of chefs. Everyone, the first thing that people think of is restaurants, but there's catering and personal chefing and country clubs and city clubs and corporate dining type chefing. There's also a whole pastry and baking side where people are opening specialty food shops or pastry shops. There's food trucks, getting away from the cooking side, food media, food sales. I sort of know from years of being here that if you were to walk around the school right now and interview all the students and ask them where they want to be in 2 years, about half of them would say working in a restaurant, and the other half would say something else, citing the kinds of positions I was talking about.
Food Network, I believe it's on in about 90 million households, and you guys have both been in the industry a while. How has the glamorization of chefs on television really helped to drive interest in this entire industry?
I think it helped a lot early on, but and it's not just Food Network; it's Top Chef and shows on the Discovery Channel and all the pastry and baking shows. But from our perspective, it's been going on a long time, and so the effect of TV plateaued a few years ago. While your first thought might be that it glamorizes things and that people think they can come out and be stars and ready to be on TV, our observation is that most students are more realistic and level-headed and know that it takes a lot of hard work and a good deal of luck. And of course, if you work hard, you get luckier.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it was an initially a real glamorization of the positions, and it gave people unrealistic expectations of what a career in the industry would be like. I can tell you that I had a person that worked with me for a while that went through culinary school. Immediately out of culinary school, she started working with a very well-known chef in Atlanta, kind of going around traveling, doing shows with him. And then on the off time, she had to work in a kitchen and actually be, a productive member of that culinary team. And ultimately, she found that to be too grueling and got out of that side of the work. So, I think that there's some little bit of difference. But I'll tell you a trend I really like is the newer shows that have come out. And I'm thinking of like Chopped and restaurant turnaround situations where they go in and they find a restaurant that's not succeeding. I think that shows a real accurate perspective of what people will see when they go into the independent restaurant world, and some of the challenges that they're going to face and tough decisions they have to make. So I love that new angle that's coming out now.
Maybe, Steve, you'll call the Food Network soon. Maybe we'll see a restaurant recruiter show on soon, and the reality of finding a job in the industry.
Oh, there's a woman in New York that already has that, and I'm so jealous.
So, Rick, let's ask this question. We talked a little bit about your client base, but do you have a base of career changers that come through your program? And if so, do you believe that those folks have an advantage or a disadvantage when they go after jobs and they're facing off against these 25-year-old workers in a restaurant?
Well, first of all, I think the career changer trend, it's slowed down a little. And that's coming from a high starting point. The idea of people leaving banks and law firms or nursing jobs at age 30 or 40 and starting in the restaurant field it still happens, and if it's right for you, it's still a good idea. But I think that some of it is recession related, where a real career changer is going back to school, is taking a chance. And prior to the recession, I think there were people pulling the trigger a little faster than do today. But we think it's a good trend. While we certainly welcome career changers, I think the probability that a younger person, a 20 or 21 or a 22-year-old is going to stay in the field and stick with it is greater than when a 40-year-old starts. But to answer the other part of your question, a lot of career changers, again, whether they're 25, 35, 40, they think, how will my prior background be helpful? And they first think it won't be. And we just hear anecdotes and stories time and time again about how that's not the case. The man or woman has gone to culinary school, and then, they're working in a chef-driven restaurant, and they're working in garde manger, or they're a line cook, sort of farther down the totem pole. But they used to work in HR, or they used to be in marketing, or they have graphic design skills, or maybe incredibly they were a plumber or an electrician. And when the chef or the restaurant owner finds out that the person has those skills, it's like, wow, could you help with this? Could you help me? Maybe you can't do the plumbing, but you can help me find a good plumber, or you can help with our graphics or our social media, and often, the career changer is going to have some skills that the other people in the restaurant don't have. So in that degree, they become not only valuable but more valuable than a lot of the other people.
Good information on the topic here, Steve. People are looking for jobs. What are some of the hot jobs right now? If somebody's in the industry, not sure what they want to do, they may have some versatility. What are some of the hot jobs that you guys are having in your hands right now that say, hey, we need people, it's maybe hard to find people, or they keep coming back?
There's actually 2 or 3 different categories of things that have been very hot that I've seen. And when I say that, we filled this same position for different growing companies across the country, across the nation. For example, one that's really related to our topic right now is a purchasing director, or a corporate chef that has purchasing skills. So we're seeing a whole lot of emphasis put on the ability to negotiate better deals with vendors, better bulk buying deals, to really partner with vendors in a way that's beneficial for the company that's doing the buying. Now, what's kind of interesting is the other side of that is we're seeing a big emphasis on sales. So, for example, we filled a couple of corporate sales manager positions. And what this role is, it's a person that is dedicated to going out and finding larger companies that will bring in business across the country. So we filled a position like this for Fogo de Chao,
You-
for example.
You know, as restaurant workers, we live and die by sales because we don't eat if we don't sell. And I consistently, when we speak to small groups and in classroom situations, we tell everyone, if you can sell, you will always have a job. So it sounds like that's absolutely true even in the restaurant industry.
Very true, very true. Yes, and even at the unit level, we're seeing a lot of emphasis where restaurants, particularly fine dining restaurants, are starting to hire private dining sales managers. And they give them a salary and a commission on the sales that they bring in, and they try to fill that space when it would otherwise be empty.
And catering managers.
And catering, absolutely.
Yeah, we have sandwich shops that bring in catering managers, and they can make a very good living because they're just going out and getting corporations to commit to box lunches.
Rick, they opened the door for a business side of it, so I guess we're going to have to get there with you. You know, we see great chefs. We see some people that are phenomenal at making foods, making creativity, whether it's baking side or cooking side, different things. But what we've seen as restaurant worker, a lot of these people that try to go on their own lack a lot of business education, business knowledge, or business acumen. How important it is for people to either obtain through a separate degree or some business education along with their culinary education?
Well, it may not be as important at first, but ultimately it's just crucial. And you know, we have a program we call it, one of our diploma programs we call it Culinary Management Diploma. Think of it as a restaurant management program. And the idea is it's like a mini MBA in the restaurant business. You know, we all know about the statistics or hear the numbers of how restaurants, you know, fail so frequently or don't stay open long, and you know, probably the number one reason for that is a lack of complete skills or a lack of understanding that, you know, the owner, the chef, you know, doesn't recognize the things they don't know about, and so frequently that's the business part of it.
Do you see some existing chef going back to that program? Do you see some people in the industry try to get that knowledge, or you just see new people trying to get in that program?
I'd say more new people. Sometimes there's people already in the field going into that. Our particular program takes about 7 months, so and it's not that expensive relatively. So we think of it, you know, as a very good investment. And of course, whether it's here or other schools, I would think that a lot of the people that are taking, you know, culinary or restaurant management programs, their ultimate goal is to be an entrepreneur. And so if part of that program involves writing a hypothetical business plan, you know, for many people that becomes their real business plan. And you know, I think with business training, it's not that, you know, you don't need to get a CPA or you don't need to be an expert, but certainly being able to understand the business aspects of your operation and work with other professionals is crucial.
Let's talk about this idea of an externship. Now, first of all, tell me, and all of our listeners out there, what's the difference between an externship and an internship?
In my mind, nothing.
Okay. Just want to make sure I wasn't the only one curious about that.
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, some days of the week we say externship, some days of the week we say internship. The value is there's a number of aspects. First of all, most culinary schools, including this one, have a generalist program. You're going to learn techniques, you're going to learn about flavors, you're going to learn skills, and then you're going to be exposed to a wide range of cuisine. But the externship is a chance to focus on something that may be of your greatest interest. It could be Italian cuisine, it could be seafood, it could be a high-volume restaurant, it could be a small bistro. And I think most externship programs make a strong effort to place people in different places. I mean, at ICE last year we placed something like 570 people in about 350 different establishments.
Wow.
350 different establishments. So think of the sort of pairing and matching that goes on there. And in our case, you know, I mean, we're fortunate we're in New York City. Some of those were in restaurants, you know, run by Thomas Keller and Daniel Boulud and Mario Batali. And, you know, it's hard, you know, getting an unpaid externship in Thomas Keller's per se is something you couldn't just walk in off the street and do,
Now,
or it would be incredibly lucky if you did. So, it's getting the foot in the door. It's getting a chance to specialize. Frequently, the externship or internship leads to a job offer, and if not a job offer, it could be a reference.
that's, and I want to ask on the other side of the table, Steve, if you're looking at a resume that has got a great culinary degree program behind it and lots of hands-on experience, whether or not that's been an internship or paid, how does that set the individual apart from someone who's just done the program and that's it?
Without a question, it's a huge difference. Back in the corporate world of Darden, when I hired people from, say, a culinary school, we would always look at somebody that has experience, and if they didn't have an internship or some really provable experience hands-on in a restaurant, then they were disqualified. And it was literally as simple as that. You've got to have some practical to pair with it. And Rick, let me tell you, man, if you're putting people in with Galud and Vitali and some of the names you're saying there, those are resumes that, in my business, we say those are resumes we can sell, because those names attract a lot of attention, and you pair that with a program like yours, and you absolutely are putting people on the right path and making them very employable.
Well, okay, so now we've just given everyone their tip to succeed in this business if they want to get into the industry. First of all, they need to go through a great culinary program like the one at ICE, and then they need to make sure they have this fantastic externship or internship experience on there, and then they need to get in front of a great recruiter and get sold to the industry. That wraps it all up.
Now, that definitely would put somebody in play. That's a career path for you.
Well, there's one more step, guys, you forget. And then you save all your money, and then you come see the restaurant brokers, and you open your own business. And that is the full circle of the restaurant world.
I think we put it together.
That is correct.
Well, we are almost out of time for this segment, so we're going to take a short break. We want to thank today's restaurant food service industry newspaper, one of our sponsors. They are the trade newspaper for the food service industry in Georgia and Florida. Our show has 3 segments. The first 2 include our experts on the panel, and then we'll move into restaurant reality, where the restaurant brokers give you the full and unbridled truth about being in the restaurant business. We didn't sell hundreds of restaurants by being afraid of those 4-letter words. The F word failed and the S word sell. This is Robin Gagnon. I'm joined by Eric Gagnon. We are the restaurant brokers. Return after the break, and let's hear more about how you can find a career in the restaurant industry.